Welcome to A Matter of Pact, a Minions Warmachine Hordes podcast, celebrating strength through diversity. This is Gaston.
And this is Rickard, and we are your hosts for this podcast.
Hey everybody, so it has been a pretty decent while, but we made it all the way through the CID process, and now all of our new toys are released, and I personally am super excited for everything that's come out. What about you, Rickard?
I am super excited about their new stuff and all the toys.
So, with everything out now, there's all these new ideas floating around. We decided to reconvene the cast, and unfortunately, much like Timon and Pumbaa,
our trio's down to 2.
So, just sleeping in, what we wanted to do is start kind of big picture. You know, you have all 3 themes now. When we left the cast off, we only had the 2. They've been through some restructuring, and we thought we'd start, big picture themes and then kind of work our way down to more specifics, more of the caster level details.
Yeah, I don't think that, we already knew a lot of the stuff that was coming out, but now we actually have the physical stuff in our hands and we know exactly what we're having.
Yeah, having certainty makes such a huge difference. The big one being, I was super, super excited for the Croak Trappers right up until they came out.
Yeah.
So that last minute nerf, that really took some of the wind out of my sails on those guys.
Yeah, we're gonna need some time with those guys and see what they can do, but initial gut feeling, maybe they're more of a trap than trappers.
Yeah. So, Rickard, what would you say is your number one out of all the new toys that we got?
If we're not talking about warlocks, I would say for sure the new support package we have in the form of the Soul Slave and the Bone Shrine. The Bone Shrine can act as an arc node, but I think the big effect it has is probably the extra fury you can pull from it, which enables a lot of things, like pushing a warlock from Fury 7 to 8, for example, so it can double cast boost immortalities or whatever. It's a pretty big deal. And the same with the Soul Slave, you get like a free cast, and you also have the free upkeep, which also gives you more fury.
See, what's been kind of interesting to me with the Bone Shrine is actually, I feel like it kind of helps out the casters who are more infantry focused, in that you don't want to take a lot of war beasts. I was playing just the other day Maylock, and my only beast was a Dracodile, and the Dracodile can make 4 fury, and Maylock is 7 fury. Yes. So you have a hell of a mismatch there, and I can't bring myself to buy Bull Snappers. I cannot do it. It crushes my soul.
I'm on your side on this matter, yeah.
I see people take them, and I'm just like, oh, you're killing me. You're breaking my heart every time I see them.
Yep.
So I ended up taking this Bone Shrine, and it worked out fantastic because I was playing against Moshar, and he has the world's most aggravating feat if you're playing Hordes, where you can't even cut yourself to get extra fury. So I was already camping 2, and I was able to pull the 1 off the Bone Shrine at least, get up to 3, cast Death Pact, and keep going. But that made a big difference in my game of I just wanted the Dracodile because I wanted the rest of my list to be infantry focused. So you have casters like Caliban who want it for the extra on top, but I think it helps the other end of the spectrum where you have casters like Maylock who want the bare minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good package, and I think we're gonna see a lot of use from it, and it's good. I think it really opens up our game generally. Especially since if you take them in Wheelwork Food, you can even use them on pig casters, so it's not limited to the Gator Warlocks.
Oh, I'd say the Soul Slave has completely revolutionized the pig game.
Yep.
Practically speaking. I love him. Carver can now actually cast all of his fucking spells.
Yep.
And camp 1.
Yep.
Bone Shrine. You can camp 1. I played it against Dreamer. It was fantastic. It was like the heavens opened up and bacon rained down upon me.
So how often do you find yourself suffering from the curse thing, whatever it's called?
I think I got it 1 turn.
Yeah. Did it matter?
No.
No.
It hasn't mattered in any of my games, and I haven't been in a situation where they were getting attacked on that particular turn either way. So, because the Dreamer game was really interesting because basically Ornn screwed his entire army.
Yeah.
With his anti-magic spell.
Yep.
So there was no skin and bones that could get anywhere near Carver, and the Dreamer couldn't Abyssal Gate him.
Yeah.
So there was no risk. And honestly, I almost understand why it's there, because like the racks, you have to have a downside.
Yeah.
But it's a little annoying to have to do a little extra keeping track of stuff.
Yeah, I can see it being a disadvantage occasionally. Maybe if you're playing something like Barnabas Level Blood, where you basically want to have in front, then the actual stat decrease can matter. But if you're playing something safe like Carver or Maylock that can stay really far behind, really shouldn't matter, and I mean you get a camp out of it, so...
Yeah, I don't run it with Blob at the moment, but since he is kind of frontline and depends on that defense stacking, I could actually see that biting you in the butt.
Yeah. I think we should also make it clear that whenever we mention Blob in this podcast, it's going to be Barnabas Lord of Blood, because it might not be obvious to everybody.
Yes. Yes, Blob.
Yeah. Okay, so what about you? What's your favorite thing from the CID?
Oh, it's got to be the witch Doc Croc.
Mm-hmm.
I think he took... It's like, do you ever watch MasterChef?
Similar, yeah.
Yeah, with Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want you to take a dish and I want you to elevate it.
Yeah.
That's what the witch Doc Croc did for Arcadius. Arcadius is a beautiful dish of something delicious, and he elevated it. Having the ability to... I was playing against Old Witch 3. All I do is play against Grimkin nowadays, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. It's a great time. I love Arcana, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool mechanic.
I hate them so much. So, but I was playing against Old Witch, and there's this house in the way, and the Old Witch is 5 inches tall, and the house was most definitely not 5 inches tall. And I'm like, so Shadow Walk and Shadow Walk you, and feet charge, and then, hi Old Witch, here's 2 heavies.
Yeah, suck it.
It's so good. The Dreamer, I had played Arcadius into the Dreamer before the CID, and she dropped down that 4-inch AoE of rough terrain, and I'm just kind of like looking at it and crying.
Yeah.
And now it's like the easiest matchup in the world.
Yeah, I mean, for sure the Shadow Walk has super improved Arcadius' game, and I mean, it gives us better Pathfinder on a stick, which can be amazing, especially now in SR17 and I guess SR18, when you have this line of sight blocking terrain piece in the middle somewhere. It's super helpful to just be able to camp behind that and then not be bothered by it when you want to go through. I mean, you can even walk through a building, so super handy thing to have.
Yeah, no, it's my actual issue with it is that it's actually causing support bloat now for me with pigs.
Sure.
Because I want 2 witch Doc Crocs in... I run very beast heavy pigs. I want 2 witch Doc Crocs in all the time. And I'm starting to have issues with points and getting enough work pieces back in.
Yeah, it's actually a good problem to have, like too much good support solos, which we have been lacking for a long time.
Yeah, I used to like kind of brag. I'm like, hey, I'm not taking any dead points. And now I'm like, oh wow, I was missing out.
Yeah. So do you bring anything with them to Sack Strike? Because I find that Sack Strike is always nice if you don't need the Ghost Walk or the Shadow Walk.
I don't specifically do that, but I just had the Maylock game actually. I've got 2 of them in there for Death Ride because they're obviously synergized very well with Death Pact and his Field Marshal. But I had to go a little cold-blooded reptilian on him and actually 1 Witch Doc Sack Strike to the other Witch Doc.
Can't do that. Isn't it Warrior model? I mean, a Trooper.
I have no idea, so I might have just cheated.
I will check it out. I think it is. I think it is a Trooper model. I will see. One friendly faction Trooper model. Yeah.
Oops. I cheated.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, also the second ability you touched on is Death Ride, which is also super helpful for Maylock. We'll see.
What about you? Your top one?
I think it's hard to pick out one I super like beyond the support package, but I think the Gatorman Husks look super promising. It's just that they're hard to fit into lists, but I want to try them out.
So I did get to try them out a little bit with Sturm and Drang, and I found that to be really intriguing because obviously he has Decelliflection up.
Decell, the armor guy, right?
Yeah, it's the armor one.
Because you mean
Decelliflection.
Yeah, I mean you have Deflection, which starts with DF, which is defense, which is my rule of memory.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. So Decell. But the other thing is that he has TK.
Yes.
So one of the catches with the husks is they leave that cloud on your turn too, which is obviously very not so good for the line of sight. You know, you save yourself, but you hurt yourself. So what I was doing is I was positioning my guys just outside of that 5-inch AoE. So he dies, he drops the cloud, line of sight's blocked, I'm safe. But then I can TK up into the cloud and then still charge on through.
Yeah. Or just leave Mr. Fish guy, the Misspeaker.
I didn't have one in the list, and that cycles back to Witch Doc Crocs and you support bloat. And
it's a thing you can do. It's not maybe you shouldn't tick for that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's seriously a thing that is going to pop up more frequently in the future, because now we have actually a lot of good hashtag options to select from, and list building is like, yeah, I can put this thing in, it's going to be good, I could put this thing in, it's going to be good for sure. The question is like, how do we find the best thing?
Right, and you have to basically iterate your way.
Yeah.
Because one of the things is like when you're looking at theory, the husk with Maylock seems really good because you have incorporeal to jam him into units, you have an armor buff to kind of keep him survivable, you have a speed buff, even with Death Ride. But then he drops that AoE, and now your gators are kind of like sitting there like, hey, you know,
yeah,
I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
So-
it can be taken on the merit just that it's a 3-point model with ambush that's reasonably tanky at like armor 16-8 box, I think.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, so you can absolutely use it for scenario and contesting flags and zones. The thing I want to try it most is with the lesser warlocks, so just your heavies in general. You can just position the husk between like the other heavy and your heavy. So I mean, now you have a medium base in between, which they can't charge over, and if they kill the medium base, it's going to be a cloud and it's going to block line of sight.
Oh yeah, I think it's beautiful, and that's kind of how I was using with Sturm and Drang.
Mm.
It ended up blocking line of sight for the battle engine for Circle.
Yeah. And then we'll see what
Which
happens
made Brian very happy.
And then we'll see how you can use like hyper aggressive and stuff. So I mean, it's interesting. It's going to take some practice and repetitions to understand, but fine.
Yeah, I think that one's probably the one that's going to be the deepest or the steepest learning curve.
Yeah.
I'd
And
say.
it could be a trap, but it looks super interesting, I think. Right. Do you have anything else to add about the new releases?
No, I still haven't gotten to all of them play-wise yet, so I keep dojoing with Long Chops. We'll get in there sometime.
Yep.
Start talking him up.
Mm.
But otherwise, I think it's great to have support. It's
Yeah.
been a long, long road to get some.
Yeah. And now that we finally have some, it feels like a new different game. It has really opened up the faction, I think.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. So the other thing that's changed significantly since we last cast was we have new themes, we have adjusted themes. How would you rank our 3 themes?
I mean, I'm all in on Will Work for Food. That's like my prime choice all the time. I think it's strong, I think it's flexible, and you get to play with the lesser warlocks, which we have wanted to do since Mark II. Like that was everything we wanted. We wanted to play with Bear and Snake and Pig and Gator. And now we can. And we actually get like a sweet kickback on the lesser war beast points.
Yep, absolutely. So how do you think that Will Work for Food matches up versus Blindwater and Thornfall?
In my opinion, I think that Food is stronger than Blindwater, and both of them are like miles ahead of Thornfall.
That's so mean.
Hot take.
I can't disagree with that.
No.
But I did want to touch on Thornfall because even though the theme has significant, how do you phrase this nicely, issues.
Yeah. Potential.
It has potential, and they did actually fix a couple of quality of life issues with it.
Yeah.
You can now take the bear and the dwarf in there. Brun and Lug.
Lanissa,
they added Lanissa.
yeah.
And then they fixed the stupidest benefit ever, which was you could not take character Pharaoh solos for free.
Yeah.
You could only take non-character Pharaoh solos.
Yeah.
Of which, in the nearly decade that this faction has existed, there are no non-character Pharaoh solos.
Nope.
There is Targ, Agata, and Maximus.
Yep.
So I remember looking through that and like, so...
Yeah. Seems like you should be able to take them. Now we have what's the Pharaoh girl? Not Helga.
Agata.
Agata.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've tried her out a couple times in that theme, and she rolls in and dies immediately.
Yeah.
Like every single time.
I
Just
can
dies.
imagine.
It's so sad.
Yeah, she seems challenging to play.
Yeah, because I was using her with Helga as kind of a pseudo totem hunter, to kind of go in, slam something, sidestep, slam something else, sprint back, and instead she decided to roll up, do no damage, and sidestep and do a little bit of damage, and then my opponent's like, oh, here, let me roll a 10 to hit and kill her. Like, and it happened like twice in a row. I'm like, okay, I'm quitting you.
Yeah.
But the other thing I really want to highlight with Thornfall before we move on to the real themes is I actually really like having the ambushers.
Mm-hmm.
I only ever take a min unit. I don't want to really commit a lot of points. I don't want to spend a lot on them. But probably about 50% of the time, they just come in and your opponent completely forgets about them and they just screw something up. And they've actually been pretty good money for me. And having that in there, realistically, they should have ambush on their card. They should not be relying on a theme for it. But having that together in there, actually, it's paid off significant dividends for me.
So how do you actually get like work after them? Do they throw grenades or do they charge, or what do they do?
It kind of varies significantly. I generally prefer the grenades because you can get the backstrike, you can actually CRA, which has been very helpful. But half the time, usually when I'm playing in that theme, I'm playing with Helga or I'm playing with Midas, and both of them are very assassination oriented.
For sure.
So you can use the ambushers to force your opponent to move their caster somewhere where they don't want to be. If they're behind a wall, you can run your ambushers so that they'll charge your caster behind the wall the following turn. And I had one game against Assyria, actually, where they were able to get in. She was in range, and they started bombing her. And she's not the sturdiest in the world.
No, correct.
So that moved him, actually made him move all the way around the other side of his, did he take a Hyperion? And then Helga's on the other side of the Hyperion, so she just came in the next turn and got herself an Assyria trophy.
Nice.
So they can make your opponent move in awkward positions. I had another one that just got posted where they came in and they charged the Eradicators in the back, so no buckler bonuses, things like that. And I've had them come in and they immediately die into absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Yeah, because they're pigs, and that sometimes happens to pigs.
Yeah, I remember when the thing first came out, Hungerford was like, yeah, this will help get your pigs across the table. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's the meat thresher.
It won't. Yeah, right. Maybe now.
Yeah, could be.
So, but I did want to touch on Thornfall. There are a lot of positives in Thornfall, even if it is not as competitive and as tuned as Will Work for Food and Blindwater.
Yeah, I mean, they're for sure going to revisit the theme down the line when we get some pig seed in 18 months or something, but for now I think the sane option is just go with Will Work for Food if you're fancying pigs.
Yes. Alrighty, but speaking of which, let's revisit some Will Work for Food versus Blindwater.
Yeah. I think that now, with all the updates and all the releases, we have two primary theme forces, I think. As always in Steamroller, you want to have like your basic bread and butter, like footprint, meat shield, infantry guys, like for controlling objectives and actually just having a volume of attacks. And we've been talking a little bit among ourselves about the two prime infantry choices in Food and Blindwater Contract, which is Valkyries and Posse. I guess you could throw in Croak Raiders there also, but I would say for mixed melee force, I would say Valkyries and Posse are your like primary choices of infantry.
I'm gonna throw out another one for you. Nis Hunters.
Sure, I would agree. And it turns out, like when you look at the stats, they are at least between Valkyries and Posse, they are kind of samey when you put them next to each other, especially if you compare like 16 points of them, which would be 2 units of Valkyries and a full unit of Posse, which comes down to exactly the same thing. Defensively, Valkyries have armor 16 and a buckler, the Posse have 16 and unyielding, Valkyries have defense 13, Posse have defense 12 and dirge. 6 Valkyries come to 30 boxes, Posse comes to 40 boxes, and Valkyries also have shield guard on top.
Never mind. Sorry,
okay.
That's what you did. So you're doing 16 points, so 6 Valkyries to 5 Posse.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, sorry.
So, I mean, if you're looking at them defensively, they are kind of similar. I mean, they're not exactly similar, but they're comparable, I think. You have Valkyries with a static armor 17 usually, unless you have chain weapons and stuff. Posse are 16 until they get engaged, which they want to be, at the point where they usually become 18 against the melee attacks. Valkyries do have one higher defense, they both have toughs. Valkyries have slightly fewer boxes, but they're also going to, because there are one more of them, they're going to soak some like overspill damage that would actually get value on the Posse. And then also Valkyries protect your other stuff. So I think that defense-wise, Valkyries are not as tanky, but comparable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say they're definitely comparable because, particularly against ranged, you're trading the concealment, which is +1 defense, for the +1 armor.
Yeah. And I mean, you also have the stuff to get around dodge, for example, on the way up. So I'm a fan of the Valkyries. And if you look at their offensive outputs, they both have the same speed. Posse though have Predator's Prayer, the Valkyries have Vengeance, and I guess you can include Lanissa's Hunter's Mark, because you can get Lanissa in food and you can take her in Blindwater, right?
Correct.
So I mean, so you can actually sort of say that they have that sort of buff available to them at least. In melee they have, if you count Gang for the Valkyries, you have PS12 and PS14 Mat 8, and Posse have 2 PS13 Mat 6, and the potential of reroll unless you do the Predator's Prayer to get further. Valkyries can also do range attacks. They're not fantastic, but they're not bad in any way. Range 8, Rat 6, power 12, which is fine if you don't need to go in. And they have crit knockdown on their hammers, and Posse have crit nothing. The drawback...
That crit knockdown, actually, that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
That matters.
I don't think it's mattered so much for me, but sure.
I actually had an opponent who was going to go win on scenario.
Yeah.
He just had to survive a Valkyrie free strike.
Yeah.
Crit knockdown.
Yeah, I mean, it is not fun to take a free strike from the Valkyries because of the crit knockdown, especially if you want to charge something. So
yes.
A drawback though with Gang is that obviously, I mean, if you're comparing 2 units of Valkyries to 1 unit of Posse, you can't gang across units, and they actually have to like clump up a little bit to get the gang to proc properly. So it sort of constrains your positioning a little bit, but I think for me it has been not huge. I mean, it hasn't come up that bad. I mean, usually they want to stay around pretty much the same anyway. So, and when you kill two pigs, the last pig can't get the gang bonus, so then it becomes obviously worse than Posse.
I think when doing the comparison between them, you're being too reasonable. I think you need to look at it more from going full recard, where you're comparing max FA of Valkyries to as many Posses you can slap in together. That's where the comparison between the two of them starts to fall apart and force you into one theme or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, because, I mean, if you're talking about 16 points, I mean, you can get 1 more unit of Valkyries, but you can get, like, how to say, 15 more Posse members.
Right, because I mean, like, I only own 3 Posse because I have limits.
Yeah, you're not
but
hardcore.
You frequently... I know, shame on me.
Yeah.
But I frequently, that's already 15 Posse versus 9 Valkyries, and you oftentimes see 20 Posse.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the big difference there between if you're either going to commit all the way to the Posse, or you're not, and then your Valkyries are going to be just fine.
Sure, but then we're also talking about one pretty specific build for one warlock, which would be made, like, of course. While Valkyries, I mean, they still have the same value across all potential food builds.
And I think you bring up a really good point there also, which is that's literally that one specific build is the only time I use Posse.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen the argument for using him with Barney 1 because he has a Death Pact.
Hmm.
Jesus, not Death Pact. Death March.
Death March, yes.
So I can see the argument for Posse there, because with the 40 boxes, you actually get your work out of Vengeance. But, like, literally, it's one caster takes Posse, and like a half dozen casters take Valkyries.
Hmm. And
so
I mean,
there's that skill there.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're actually playing food, the theme force, then you don't want to take as much infantry either, because you get kickback on your sweet beasts. So then, like,
right.
I mean, so then, like, if you have 24 points invested in 3 units of Valkyries, which is fine, I don't think that you really want to have that much more infantry.
No, I think you would expect that. Other than solos, that would take up the entirety of your infantry.
Yeah.
But that is also kind of where I compare them up against Nis.
Mm.
Because you're looking at 24 points versus... It's 24 points of Valkyries versus 19 points of Nis.
Mm.
You're looking at 9 Valkyries versus 10 Nis, crappy armor, high defense versus higher armor, and boom versus crappy defense. Yeah, ish.
I mean, you're looking at defense. I think they're 14 now. 14 against.
14.
Yeah, 14 against 13. So I mean, you get one more point of defense and lose a lot of tankiness.
Correct. So, but I mean, you do gain the Weapon Master. I think it's only pound 9 though.
Yeah.
And the irony is that the one time I do use them together is actually with Midas, and I take both units and just make them all Weapon Masters and make them all Vengeance.
I would say that Miss have like a different kind of tooliness to them. Like, I mean, you have the CRAs and the long range, and you have the potential to ignore cover and concealment, which can be super handy in some matchups. Sorry, I interrupted you.
At least in my area, Idrians are really common.
Yeah.
And that's Idrians preying on your Valkyries is not very fun.
No. But that is actually one more point in favor of the Valkyries. They are less susceptible to unit debuffs than a big unit of Posse.
That's true, because it's 3 men versus 5.
Yeah. On the other hand, they don't take unit buffs as well either, so...
But I mean, that also cycles back to the Soul Slave, the Bone Shrine, and now that we have support, Midas can sling out 3 Weapon Mat Battle Lusts.
Probably 4
easily.
if he really wants to.
4 if he really wants to, and probably 5 if you take the pot, the crock pot.
I guess to 9 if you're right per turn, and then on 1 free from the Soul Slave.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
either way, I mean, you now have the ability to support them within the faction, which is something you did not previously have.
Correct. Yeah, but I mean, anyway, I think that's something that's worth considering, because I think that when most people look at the Valkyries, they're looking primarily at the shield guard aspect of it, but when we started to talk about it and actually did this comparison, I think it becomes clear that Food actually has a really good fighting unit, with good flexibility. In Blindwater it's pretty obvious. I mean, you want a melee unit, take the Posse. But I think our point that we want to make is that the Valkyries are like a really good work unit that also has added flexibility.
And I mean, I was pretty astounded by that, because when they first came out in CID, I looked at them on paper and I'm like, I was not impressed.
Me neither.
And I literally transformed into like a big cheerleader for them.
Yeah. And when I've been trying them, they have been working out great.
We were doing the CID testing for them, and I was just like, hey, I'm playing against Posse. I'm like, hey, you see the Valkyries, just blow them all away for me so I can report that they suck. And that was my attitude. And yeah. He struggled.
Yeah.
And then in the next game, I'm like, just blow them all away this time, so that way we can report them. And last time was a fluke, and he struggled again. And we're kind of like scratching our heads like, huh.
Yeah.
That didn't go as it should have.
Yeah. I think, I played him with Malak, Triple Valk, and then Lesser War Beasts. And they were super good. I played against Scorn, Morgul to Derp Turtle, Venator things. And actually didn't even try to shoot my beasts because I didn't want to proc Vengeance on the Valkyries. And I was super happy for that.
Man, I'm super happy for you. Usually they still shoot my shit.
Yeah, and they would have tanked, and Valkyries would have gone up into Skreas and stuff, so yeah. And especially with Malak, you can actually get instant value from revives, because you can revive a pig, get a free shield guard, and you can revive and use, even though it can't attack, it can still proc gang for other pigs, so yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah, and that's a really good point with Malak and Will Work for Food, is the value you get it. And at Armor 19, when they show guard, they're no longer like auto dying.
No, for sure not.
Even on 1 box.
And they still have tough, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the other comparisons between Will Work for Food and Blindwater for me is actually it comes down to Croak Raiders. Yeah. When I'm looking to really invest in Croak Raiders, which would be Jaga, it would be Caliban, possibly Barnabas 1. I'm really going to look hard at Blindwater. Yeah,
especially since they don't work for Food, so.
Right, but what I'm talking about is like a massed ranged infantry.
Yeah.
As being the way my strategy is built. Because you can easily take Jaga and put her into Will Work for Food. I think Jaga is one of those casters who can straddle both, no problem.
Sure.
It's just how do you want to build her for what matchups? And what list pairing. So, my pairing is Arcades Jaga. I would like her to bring a bunch of infantry so that way, like, she can grind through Testament of Menoth. He cannot keep up with Revive, whatever it's called, Mockery of Death, Mockery of Life. He cannot keep up with her if you play it right.
Yeah, it's pretty
Harbinger cannot keep up with her. So I started like working on little modules where I'm like, okay, what is the bare minimum I need to get to 60 so I can get my 3 free solos in Blindwater? And I came up with like double raiders, a sacro vault, and then you can do the chamblers with, I think you have to add on a void leech. Or honestly, for Jaga, I've actually been investing a lot in ambushers because that extra point of armor makes the difference. I was looking at her feeding into like Haley 3 ghosts. That extra point of armor, you can, on pretty good dice, you can remove a ghost and they can't cancel enough damage.
So I don't think that Haley 3 players usually bring the Arcane Shield nowadays because they're playing Gravediggers.
Right, they're just relying on the Cloud Wall.
So they are armor 14, 5 boxes.
It's straight dice, but you got to take a 5 off because they can use the focus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see how
so you need a boosted 10 with Signs of Portents.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, the extra armor actually makes a pretty big difference.
But the other things is I was looking at putting her into some kind of non-traditional matchups, such as Madrak 1 brick. With that POW 14, you can reasonably take out a whole unit of champions with her feet.
There are 5 boxes now, right?
They are 5 boxes now. They cannot sanguine bond it. It is not an attack.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah.
And you can pop the Krillstone Bearer.
Yeah.
Because it's an RFP, and you cannot self-sack it.
Self-sack, yeah.
So they get their tough check. They will get their tough check.
It's pretty smart. Pretty smart.
So there's some really interesting things that you can do with her feet, but I feel like that the difference between 13 and 14 is a big difference because that extra just 1 just pushes it up slightly more.
Yeah, it doesn't work against Makeda, right, or Harbinger.
I believe they're just on disabled,
probably,
if I recall correctly. But the thing is, I'm not too worried about Harbinger in specific, because all the Croaks light things on fire, and then I've got a couple turtles in my list which corrode things. So you go through, you put up Signs of Portents, you take all this 20 infantry, and you shoot the hell out of Harbinger's list, and she martyrs the hell out of the list, and you've got nowhere until they all burn to death.
Yeah.
And then if you want some extra insurance, you set them on fire and corrode them.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to play the snake into Harbinger, and I got touched in a bad place because I mean, from my old Mark II days, I love the spitters into her because it did exactly that. I mean, you put corrosion on everything, so just a martyr all around the place. I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna corrode some Idrians. And I did, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna martyr this Idrian and this Idrian, and this Idrian is gonna die. Like, you triggered my trap card. Because in the Faithful Masters theme, I think it is, if a dude dies within 5, the warjacks become insane. They got +2 to hit and +2 attack, and I was like, oh.
Well, I mean, yeah, don't leave your snake in charge range.
No, but that happened.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm actually going to go back and talk about my most favorite thing, which isn't the husks. Kwaak Gub and Enliven.
Okay, Enliven is pretty sweet.
It is extremely sweet, especially if you're playing food and you want to protect your beasts.
See, I think it's pretty sweet with, again, Jaga and Blindwater.
Yeah.
Because of the intersection with the turtles. Because now you're getting Counterblast is cheaper, so you can actually use it. Hallelujah. And then you have Retaliatory Strike. And then you have the option of Enliven with Carapace. And if they still want to kill you, you have Death Rage. And
so
Death Rage, it turns out, RFPs, so the Dreamer cannot make daydreams off of your beasts.
Oh, so much tech.
I know!
Yeah.
She randomly fixes everything in the game!
Okay, so how much to actually get out of us?
It's glorious!
So, okay, you get a Counterblast, Retaliatory Strike, and then maybe 1 attack more. Yeah.
I mean, they're all Mat 6, POW 15. They're not amazing.
Yeah. From 1 inch, but sure. I mean, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And then, obviously, like, one of the problems with Enliven is that when they hit you with a bunch of infantry, if you enliven away, you don't have parry anymore as part of Enliven. So you're just gonna get all those charge attacks anyway, and congratulations, you just made them +2 to hit you on top of boosting damage.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it specifically on the turtle,
You actually get +4 armor.
Now I'm getting +4 armor against all these charge attacks I would have taken anyway.
And I mean it's def 10, so I mean the +2 to hit isn't gonna matter.
Exactly.
Probably.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
and then of course double venom against gremlin swarms.
Yes, I mean the double venom came up in a game yesterday when I just used it to kill like 4 battle mages or something. So I mean.
Yeah, I had him clearing Idrine duty yesterday.
Yeah. Have you tried Mudfoot? Anything?
I haven't had a situation where it has come up yet.
Should be kinda useful mid-late maybe.
Yeah, it should be kinda useful. I don't know. I don't have a good use for it at the moment. Probably something Dracodile, but I don't generally take him alongside the Dracodile.
But I mean you don't need Floodwaters because I think they treat open terrain as rough terrain, right? As part of the spell.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so there should be something with them.
I think that's the interesting part. Is not only that they lose Pathfinder, but actually become much slower.
Yeah, it is a low range. I think it's a range 6.
6, yeah, and they're speed 5, so it's not fantastic.
But you never know.
I mean, you could.
It's one of those things that you keep in your. It's like a dead weight.
Yeah.
You keep it in your back pocket, and just one time out of 10, it's going to screw someone over.
Yeah, when they need to run something to contest, for example, you're like, nope.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a very good one.
Oh, I mean, just to protect the beast instead of like. I mean, I guess if you want to protect the beast, I guess you want to enliven Prowl, but on the other hand, you don't have to soak a short attack and a free strike. You can just be like, you can't charge me.
If only you could do both in the same turn.
But you can.
It's like the gift that keeps giving.
So good, little guys.
God, I love this faction.
Support is fun. Hastag options.
So good.
Yeah. So can we talk about our newest Chinese toy? Not newest, but biggest at least.
As long as it does involve a lot of rope and a lot of skulls, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and this guy has a lot of rope and skulls. We're talking about the Blob.
I feel like I'm painting 40k.
So,
who is our new big baddie?
It's Barnabas, the Lord of Blob. Lord of Blob.
Yes, he really is.
The Lord of Blob. I've been playing for some games now, and he's really growing on me. I super appreciate him and his playstyle. I don't know if you have had any good experience with him.
I've had good experiences with him. I think the problem with him is Gaston portion of the game.
Which is?
Where, I know, right, the player.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I get behind really far in scenario, and I either lose on scenario or I catch up on attrition and win in the long run.
Mm.
So I haven't pulled him back out, but I've put a couple gremlin swarms in to kind of take care of that issue, hopefully. Yeah. But I'm looking at your games. I don't play him as aggressively as you do, and I still feel like I play him relatively aggressively, at least for me.
I feel bad.
I mean, you have him like he's in your opponent's deployment zone for you.
Almost. I mean, I super love to front with him with my army because he's going to be the tankiest thing. You have to be really aware of the threats that he is, or that he can be exposed to. Like Gorman's blind bobs has been a real pain in the ass for me. Some feats TK can be a problem, which is why I bring Ore in. And I mean, stuff like that. So you have to always be mindful, but I like to push him as far as I can forward and just try to bully the opponent's army. And it's been working well so far, actually.
Yeah, I think maybe I just hit a bunch of lists that have really good map fixing, because like I played him against Baldur 1, and he had primal he had like a Gorax, a bunch of wolves, and then Megalith.
Yeah.
So Megalith came in, Animus, Weight of Stone, primal and the wolves can come in. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So we're not front leading with you.
Nope. I mean that's a problem that he can have, but I mean that's the thing that you have to sort of see. Can I put him here? What's gonna happen? I'm gonna suck Megalith and a Fair Warproof with primal. It's like, yeah, that's not a happy place to be. So
yeah.
But I'm learning. I'm dying about as much as I'm winning, but it's slowly coming to me.
Now, I will say, I feel like he is weak into gun lines.
Mm-hmm. Elaborate.
And none of his kit helps you into gun lines. So either your list is going to be independently decent because of Carapace, because of Submerge, because of Prowl, or you're going to bring something like Rask, which is good into gun lines.
Sure.
Like, all they have to do is stand a little bit further back than 10 inches and blow the hell out of you.
Yeah. Okay, agreed. I mean, as you say, he himself doesn't help against gun lines. He himself is reasonably durable. But, yeah, I can see that you can pick off his
And I mean, let's
his
go.
armor.
I mean, he has the sack pawn onto the poorly named Bone Shakers.
Extremely poorly named.
Very aggravating. But they're not exactly the world's toughest things to knock out with just, POW 10 shooting.
No.
And then you have your Signar opponent take, the POW 10 shooting and go kill yourself 3 of those, and then you take the big guns and just turn them onto the big guy and, bye-bye Barney.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're camping 5, as I usually do.
There is that.
Or, I mean, especially if you're going to a gun line, you're probably not going to cast Execration, so you can camp 7. He has run.
You're going to need to be camping 5 because you got beasts.
Sure. But they can...
Come on.
I mean, a Blindwater has, what's it called? Threshold 10. I'm gonna be fine with leaving 1 on him. It's gonna be good. Remember your Arcadis roots, man. You just run your dude, you angle his front arc, so he's gonna frenzy into the other army. It's gonna be fine. If it happens.
I feel like Mark III has made me soft on that. It's been fat and lazy going here.
Yeah, just you charge whatever you want. It's like, remember the good old days. It was about skill. Positioning all the little angled front arcs with Arcadius. Good times.
I still feel like it was more luck than skill. It was really just dumb luck if you get it right.
Yep.
Although I do miss the needle gun where you can poke your opponent's War Beast and have them make attacks.
Yeah.
I killed a Borka 2 with his own Mauler once.
Yeah, sweet stuff.
Anyhow, back to the Blob.
Yeah, so to continue your point about gun lines, I would say that while he himself might not be good, help against gun lines, I think that his army can. I play him in food, of course, because I like food. I mean, you have Prowl Snake, you have Submerge Gator, you have a pretty tanky bear with hyper aggressive, which might be able to dissuade them from shooting him. And I bring along 2 shield guards, which can be used for body blocking as well, with some terrain help and a cloud. So far I haven't gone into super heavy gun lines, but we'll see. I feel sort of confident.
And I built him relatively the same way, and I'm, other than tweaking things and playing smarter, I'm pretty happy with my build where I took a couple turtles for Carapace, I have the snake with Prowl, I've got Wrong Iron Snapjaw with Submerge, so and then I actually have some Valkyries in there.
Yeah,
just to spread around some extra shield guards.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Valkyries can absolutely help if you want to skew harder against the gun lines.
Right, but whenever I see people kind of wanting to steer towards the congregation with him, I'm kind of like, oh, why don't you steer back? And then there's always the question of, do you monopot or do you multipot?
In food, I say you monopot. Blindwater, maybe 2 if you want to bone swarm it up.
See, the thing is in food you can still bone swarm it up. So what is the break-even point where 2 pots are worth it? Is it three models that take advantage of the corpses, or is it 4?
I think.
Is it 2 pots, a Barnabas or 2 bone swarms, a Barnabas and a Shamblers to get the 2 pots, or do you think it's a factor of the congregation lets you get them for free? Or do you think just the 2 bone swarms and the Barnabas is enough to justify 2?
I wouldn't. It's hard to say a fixed breaking point. I think a double pot opens up the game more for him because he can be really aggressive with his bone shakers. If you're already having full on corpses and you're not looking at some significant shooting, you can just kill his bone swarms by himself and then stake them out during his control phase, just fill them up right up again. Because they have great presence. They get really far up the board, they can be used to contest early. I think just and I mean the pots are good in and of themselves. If you're doing nothing else with the second pot, you can use it for puppet mastering or spectral lashing, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, I had totally underestimated Spectral Lash.
It's so good.
But one of the other things that the Bone Swarms kind of bring to him is that I think they push on his same strengths, which is I'm not dropping him into guns, so I'm not too worried about them being light war beasts, but they're defense 13. And defense 13 plus, execration or excretion, as I like to call it.
The poop spell.
Is, it bumps up to 15. You've got Signs of Importance on top of that. And, sometimes you get the Swarm, sometimes you don't. But Signs of Importance 15 on a steady beast that already has Pathfinder, and you can get him up to POW 20, I mean, there's a significant reason to want to take Bone Swarms with Barney.
Sure. I'm not a super fan myself, but I can see the point for them. I mean, I wouldn't be angry if I had to bring one.
2 or 3.
Yeah, then I would maybe be a little bit mad. But I mean, they have options for sure. The usual argument I see is that you want to bring them for the Swarm Animus, which gets Blob to defense 17 against living or concealment. So I mean, that would maybe help against shooting. But in my opinion, I would just rather camp 5 all the time. And I mean, especially if you're coming up against like some mixed, for example, Wolf Stone list in Circle. I don't know if they actually play that, but for example, so I mean, now we're looking at, do I want to get more defense against the living and then suffer against the stones, or do I just want to camp 5 and not get value of the Animus, stuff like that.
And see, and I feel like the Animus is generally, it's kind of like old Counterblast, where it's too expensive to realistically be able to crutch on it, to get a lot of value out of it.
For 1, for sure, I would be all aboard that, but for 2, probably not.
Yeah, and that's, so I know a lot of people like to add the Animus into their calculations, but because it's situational and because it's expensive, I leave it out. I'm just looking at a defense 13 and like, juicy.
Yeah.
I just think it's so juicy.
Yeah. And I mean, they add another source of RFP, so especially if you want to try to build him into Cricks, for example. I mean, then Barney will RFP himself, his Bone Shakers will RFP, the Bone Swarms will also RFP, so I mean, it's...
I mean, if I'm building a pairing with Barney, I'm going to want him to go into something like Cricks, or really any sort of infantry, because he has a Rebuke, he has kind of the ability to tank through a lot of that. And a lot of the other casters, you either build for infantry or you build for heavies. Like if you pair him with Rask, then Rask can take the gun line, but Rask doesn't necessarily want Cricks if you're building that way.
Yeah. And I think, regardless if you're playing Food or Blindwater, I think you want to bring the Snake along. In Food, 100% because you get kickback on the points. Blindwater, you might want to do some troop everything, but the potential of having Rebuke and Dahlia's Haunting Melody against living infantry, it can just shut down stuff.
Oh yeah, it gets absolutely crazy. And then you're stacking, she's like defense 18. Yeah,
defense 18, the Snake goes to defense 16 steady, Prowl, and I think it's like a no-brainer piece to bring.
And then obviously the other no-brainer is Wrong Eye Snapjaw.
Yeah, which should be pretty much auto-include.
Absolutely. So, I don't know. Any final thoughts?
Play him in Food. Just do it. No, I don't know. I think it's pretty open. I think it's easier to get a strong build in Food for him. I think Blindwater's gonna take some more work to figure out like how do we want to put this together and what does it go into.
So one question is, where do you think he ranks on? Is he the best in the faction out of all the Warlocks? Where would you rank him, 1 to 11?
It's hard to say.
Because Minions now goes to 11, baby.
Ooh, that's good. I would say at least 3, I think. I think when I play an R, I feel that he's really strong. When I die, I can always track it down to user error. Or maybe just like some critical roll that came up the wrong way, for example. He plays similar to Rask in a way, but entirely different at the same time. Because he builds all those like big heavy hitters, but he doesn't alpha from far away. He likes to tank instead. He tanks the alpha and gives it back. And I find that the biggest difference between him and Rask is that he presents a puzzle to the opponent which takes a lot of time to unravel. So a lot of my wins have actually been on clock. just because it takes so long time for the opponent to like figure out how to actually do this. In Rask, I think it's probably the other way around, that you have to be very mindful of about your own positioning, always planning one turn ahead. It's easier now with the Soul Slave. You don't have to like plan your upkeep cycling as much, especially since you can get out bonus charge easier.
And I think you raise an interesting point with that, because your pairing is Blob and Malok, correct?
Yes.
And my pairing is Jaga Arcadius.
Mm.
And it's really, it feels like almost two different philosophies where both Malok and Barney present your opponent with a problem. Yeah. Whereas both Arcadius and Jaga present you with solutions.
Sure.
So, because I'd probably rate him as 3-2, because I'd put Rask and Arcadius above him. Because I think there's an inherent risk in running a tank that has to accept the alpha.
But it's a really good tank.
It's a really good tank, but there are things that can beat it. And if you're in one of those matchups where you're going to accept the alpha, there's risk. There's, I think, a higher risk in running a brick than there is in being the aggressor.
But, I mean, when I play it now, that's not like the feeling I get, because there are still really few things that can handle all of his kit at the same time, and I still have a lot of tooliness in my list. Like, for example, I have Submerge, I have Prowl, I have Counter Blast, I have Counter Charge from the Bear. So far it's like, whenever I've been on the losing side, I can always think back like, okay, if I have done this and this and this instead, it would have been much better. And the only big problem I think is when you have like super durable recursion or something. Ghost Fleet hasn't been fun to play into, but it worked. I can imagine that Scorn Makeda Cats is gonna be miserable as well. Then I would rather default to Malok. So, but for now I'm just turning around with him, see what he does, and just throwing him into everything and see sort of where he holds up and where he breaks.
Fair enough. All right, well, I'd say that's the cast. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye.